Have you ever ignored her for a day and then watched her act like the whole atmosphere changed? Like she suddenly remembered you exist? Not because you posted something, not because you threatened, just because you stopped feeding the line between you. No instant replies, no reassurance, no chasing her mood. And somehow, that quiet does more than 1,000 conversations ever did. Here's the disturbing truth. When you ignore her, it doesn't just hurt her feelings. It removes her access. And a lot of women don't realize how much they relied on that access until it disappears. In a minute, I'm going to show you the sequence most men miss. The small probes, the escalation, the sudden warmth, the guilt, the surveillance, and the part that should scare you. What it reveals about why you were valuable to her in the first place. Reason 1. She checks if you're still reachable. And the first move is almost always a probe, not a confession. She won't start with, "I miss you," because that risks rejection. She starts with something casual so her ego stays protected. A meme, a random, "Hey," a question she doesn't need answered. Something low cost that lets her pretend she's not reaching for you, and she watches your response speed like it's a heartbeat monitor. If you reply fast, she relaxes, because the power dynamic didn't change. You're still there, still reachable, still summonable. She didn't lose you, she just paused you. That's comfort, that's control. But if you don't respond, she feels the loss more sharply. Not because she's in love all of a sudden, because the routine of your availability breaks. The real question underneath every casual message is simple and cold. Can I still summon him? You'll see it in the small behaviors too. She checks your stories. She looks for signs you're active. She watches your online status like she's noticing, but she's actually trying to feel your presence without asking for it directly. Reachability is comfort, and when comfort is gone, she has to decide whether to step forward with effort or step forward with tactics. Here's the moment everything quietly changes. When you don't answer the first probe, she can't tell if you're busy, hurt, or detached. And that uncertainty does something to the mind. Reason 2. Curiosity turns into obsession because silence creates a blank space her mind tries to fill with meaning. Uncertainty makes the brain loop. It replays, rewinds, searches. She starts rereading moments looking for where she miscalculated. The last conversation. The last joke. The last time she pulled away and you didn't chase. The last time she thought you were harmless. Your absence feels bigger than your presence because it's undefined. When you were present, she could categorize you. Predictable, available, easy to reset. But when you disappear, you become a question mark, and question marks are expensive to ignore. Curiosity becomes obsession when she can't control the narrative anymore. This is the part that looks shocking from the outside. A woman who seemed indifferent suddenly starts circling. Not always directly, but you can feel it. More story views, more little check-ins, more accidental contact. Not because she became romantic, because her mind wants resolution. The mind hates unanswered questions more than bad answers. And there's another layer that stings her ego. In silence, she imagines other women noticing what she ignored. She imagines you being calm without her. She imagines you not needing her attention. And that possibility creates pressure inside her because it flips the identity she had in the dynamic, the one who could always pull you back. Here's the mini hook. Once curiosity turns into obsession, she'll try to end the uncertainty the fastest way she knows. Not with honesty, with a reaction. Reason 3. She tries to trigger a reaction because a reaction is proof she still has influence. If she can make you angry, she can locate you. If she can make you defensive, she can steer you. If she can make you over-explain, she can watch you bend back into the old role. So she might go cold, sarcastic, or sharp, a little jab disguised as, "Just kidding," a dry message meant to irritate you, a sudden attitude like she's punishing you for being quiet. Sometimes she creates a fake problem just to see if you'll rush to fix it. Because if you rush to fix it, you're still hooked. You're still predictable. You're still hers, emotionally. This is where men mess up. They think the goal is to win the argument. They defend themselves, they explain, they try to clear the air, they write paragraphs, and without realizing it, they hand her exactly what she wanted: engagement. She didn't need a solution, she needed a response. The goal isn't conflict, it's control of your attention. If you stay calm, her tactics feel powerless and she feels exposed. Because calm is ungrabbable. Calm doesn't give her leverage. Calm says, without saying it, I'm not participating. And for a woman who's used to your reactions, that's a loss of power that stings. Here's the moment everything quietly changes again. When she can't trigger you, she's forced to reassess the value of what she thought she had under control. Reason 4. Your silence makes her recalculate, because when you stop chasing, she reevaluates your value fast. Silence removes the comfort of taking you for granted. It forces consequences to replace convenience. She realizes your attention wasn't guaranteed, it was chosen. That realization hits in small moments at first. She reaches for her phone and pauses. She thinks about texting and hesitates. She feels the gap where your predictability used to sit. And that gap makes her notice what you provided only after it's missing: your steadiness, your reliability, the way you used to show up, even the way you used to tolerate things without making it heavy. Your calm can read like self-respect, and self-respect attracts for one reason. It suggests you have options, even if you don't. It suggests you're not dependent, even if you were. It suggests you can live without her approval. And she wonders, quietly, if you detached before she did. That thought shifts power, because it means she wasn't the one controlling the ending. This is where her behavior can split into two directions. One direction is genuine effort. The other direction is tactics designed to restore access without accountability. And the next thing she does will tell you which one it is. Reason 5. She tests your boundaries harder because a new boundary gets tested immediately. If you didn't answer, if you didn't chase, if you didn't react, she needs to know if it's real or just a mood. So she pushes. Not always aggressively, often subtly. She may punish you with silence to see if you panic and chase. She may act offended to see if you apologize for having space. She may send sweetness to see if you melt. She'll try different angles: warmth, anger, victim mode, until she finds the weak spot. Because if she finds the weak spot, the old dynamic comes back and she doesn't have to change. This is why explaining too much is deadly. If you over-explain your silence, she learns your standards are negotiable. If you justify your boundary, she learns it needs her approval. Consistency is what passes the test, not intensity or speeches. A stable line with no performance. Here's the moment everything quietly changes. If you hold steady, she either respects you more, or she disappears. And both outcomes are information. Because a woman who likes you but fears losing control will stay and adjust. A woman who only liked the access will fight the boundary, then leave when it stops paying. Now, at this point, you might be thinking this is all about women playing games. And it's easy to get arrogant here. It's easy to think, so ignoring her is the solution. It's not. Ignoring is not power. Power is what your silence reveals about your relationship with yourself. Here's the inward flip, and it starts in a place most men avoid. The reason her tests work is because they trigger something in you. Your fear of losing her. Your need to be seen as good. Your addiction to closure. Your ego's craving to win. Because notice what happens inside you when you ignore her. At first you feel control. Then you feel the itch. You start checking your phone. You start imagining what she's doing. You start wanting her to reach out just to prove you still matter. Your silence becomes a performance for her reaction, not a standard rooted in self-respect. And that's the trap. Because if you're ignoring her to get a reaction, you're still controlled. You're just taking a different route back to the same addiction, the need to be chosen. The moment she sends that probe, you feel it in your chest. The moment she sends warmth, your body wants relief. The moment she sends guilt, your ego wants to defend your image. And if you fold to any of those, you teach her the same lesson again. Your self-respect has a price, and she can buy it with the right emotion. So ask yourself the honest question. Are you ignoring her because you're done tolerating disrespect? Or because you're hoping she'll chase and finally validate you? Because the man who actually shocks her isn't the man who goes silent for a day. It's the man who can stay silent without craving the outcome. The man who doesn't break his own boundary to soothe his anxiety. The man who doesn't rush back the second he gets a little warmth, like warmth is a reward he has to earn. And once you become that man, you stop being predictable. You stop being the emotional vending machine. You stop being the guy she can reset with one message. That's when the dynamic really changes, and that's when you start seeing the next phase, how she uses warmth to pull you back, and when that doesn't work, how she uses guilt to make you defend yourself, because guilt is the fastest way to get a good man to fold. But before we go there, you need to understand something darker. The shocking part isn't what she does when you ignore her. The shocking part is what you've been training her to do by always being reachable. Because a woman doesn't magically learn she can summon you. She learns it because you taught her. Every time you replied instantly, every time you chased her silence, every time you begged for clarity, every time you over-explained to restore comfort. You trained her nervous system to see you as a resource, not a man. So when you finally stop, of course she reacts. You didn't just remove attention. You removed a system she was used to leaning on. And now she has to decide whether to earn you properly or manipulate the access back. And your next move decides whether she levels up or whether she simply gets better at pulling your strings. Because if you break under warmth, she learns warmth is the key. If you break under guilt, she learns guilt is the key. And if you break under drama, she learns drama is the key. That's why the real battle isn't between you and her. It's between you and the part of you that panics when you aren't chosen. Because that part is what makes you rush back into the old dynamic, even when you know it's bad for you. In the next part, we're going to finish the sequence, how she uses warmth as the safest hook, how she escalates into guilt when warmth fails, how she starts watching who gets your attention, and the final truth that most men don't want. Ignoring her reveals what she really wanted from you in the first place, and whether you were ever valued for you or for what you provided. Because once you see what she reaches for, comfort, control, validation, or real connection, you'll understand why staying silent is easy for a day and nearly impossible for a week. And you'll realize the hardest part isn't ignoring her. The hardest part is staying consistent when your ego starts starving, when your nervous system wants relief, and when her message finally arrives and offers you the exact drug you've been craving. Because that's the moment you either become the man she can't control anymore, or you become reachable again. And the whole shocking sequence resets back to the beginning, right when you thought you had changed it. And that's where the real test begins, because you're not fighting her anymore. You're fighting the part of you that wants relief. Reason 6. She uses warmth to pull you back, because warmth is the safest hook. It doesn't look manipulative. It looks like love. It looks like she finally gets it. A sweet message, a playful selfie, a soft, "I miss you." A sudden compliment she never gave when you were available. The timing is never random. Warmth shows up when she feels you slipping out of her reach. And if you rush back, she learns something dangerous. Warmth is all it takes to reset you. She doesn't have to address what caused the silence. She doesn't have to take accountability. She just has to soothe your nervous system for 10 minutes, and you'll hand her access again like you're grateful. This is why the sweetness fades once access is restored. Not always because she's evil, because the urgency was never about building something real. The urgency was about stopping the discomfort of losing control. So she gives you just enough warmth to reopen the line, then relaxes, because the thread is gone. Here's how you tell the difference between warmth as desire and warmth as a tool. Real warmth stays when you don't reward it immediately. Real warmth continues when you're not instantly available. Real warmth comes with consistency, not just a spike of affection after you pull away. Tool warmth collapses the second you respond, because its job is finished. And that's the shocking part for men. You think the warmth means she changed. It might, but often it means you're easy to reset. Reason 7. If warmth fails, she uses guilt, because guilt shifts the focus from her behavior to your reaction. Now you're the bad guy. Now your silence is cruel. Now you changed. Now you're cold. She frames your boundary as a personality flaw so you'll defend yourself. Because defense is engagement. Engagement is access. And access is what she wants back. Victim language is powerful because it hijacks good men. It makes you feel responsible for her discomfort. You start thinking, maybe I went too far. You start explaining your silence like you committed a crime. You start apologizing for your standards. And the moment you apologize for your boundary, she wins the dynamic back without earning anything. Guilt is often the last attempt to regain access without accountability. And the real test isn't whether you can win the argument. The real test is whether you can hold your line without explaining. Because explanation is the crack she slips through. Explanation becomes negotiation. Negotiation becomes you softening. Softening becomes you reachable again. Here's the moment everything quietly changes. The first time you hold a boundary while she plays victim, you see the truth of the relationship. Either she respects you more, or she gets angrier, because she's losing control. Reason 8. She watches who gets your attention, because attention is status, and status is ego pain. If she can't pull you back directly, she will try to understand where your attention went, not always with jealousy, sometimes with surveillance. She'll watch your stories more. She'll show up in places you frequent. She'll ask questions that sound casual but aren't. What have you been up to? Who were you with? You seem busy lately. And you'll notice something. She becomes interested in your life only when she doesn't have access to it. That's not always love. Sometimes it's possession. Sometimes it's the fear of replacement. Sometimes it's her mind trying to locate the power she lost. Because if your attention is going somewhere else, then the story in her head gets darker. She wasn't the center anymore. This is where men get drunk on the feeling. You start enjoying her curiosity. You start feeding it just enough to keep her circling. You start playing with her attention as revenge. And that's how you become the same kind of person you claimed you were escaping. You stop being selective and start being petty. You stop being quiet and start being performative. So here's the rule that keeps you clean. Don't use her curiosity as your dopamine. Let it be information. Let it show you what she values, your attention, your validation, your availability, not just you. Because if she only watches when she feels she's losing, she wasn't valuing you. She was valuing the position she had over you. Reason 9. She either levels up or disappears, and both outcomes are the point. A woman who genuinely respects you will adapt when she realizes access is no longer free. She won't just send a "hey," she'll show consistent effort. She'll be clearer. She'll stop using tests and start using honesty. She'll treat your time with weight because she finally understands it has weight. But a woman who only wanted access will fade once she realizes the new rules are real. She might try a few hooks first, warmth, guilt, drama, and when those don't work, she'll disappear or rewrite the story to protect her ego. She'll call you immature. She'll say you're playing games. She'll act like you're the problem for not being endlessly available. That's not a loss. That's confirmation. Here's the moment everything becomes simple. You stop judging her by what she says and start judging her by what she sustains. Anyone can spike effort for a day when they feel loss. The question is, what happens after the spike? Does the respect remain when she feels safe again? Does the consistency remain when she believes she has you back? Because that's where the truth lives. Reason 10. Ignoring reveals what she really wanted, and that's the part most men can't handle. Because the revelation is rarely flattering. When you remove your attention, you find out whether she wanted connection or control, whether she wanted you or the role you played, whether she valued your presence or the comfort of your availability. If she comes back with accountability with consistency, with real effort that doesn't collapse. She wanted something real, and she got scared when she lost it. If she comes back with probes, hooks, guilt, and disappears the second she gets a reply, she wanted access. She wanted the ability to summon you, not the responsibility of choosing you. And that's the shocking part. Not her behavior, the truth behind it. Now we descend into the coldest layer. The reason ignoring feels powerful is because it finally gives you a break from being the one who cares more. It finally flips the pressure back onto her. But if you use that flip to feed your ego, you're still trapped. You're just trapped in a different loop. Because your silence isn't supposed to be a weapon, it's supposed to be a boundary. And a boundary only works when you can hold it without needing the outcome. This is many fail. They ignore her, feel strong for a day, then break the silence because the quiet inside them becomes unbearable. They don't miss her as much as they miss the relief her attention gives them. They don't want love as much as they want certainty. They don't want connection as much as they want the anxiety to stop. So the real question isn't, what will she do when I ignore her? The real question is, what will I do when she reacts? Because she will react in a way that targets your weak spot. If your weak spot is loneliness, she'll send warmth. If your weak spot is guilt, she'll play victim. If your weak spot is ego, she'll provoke you. If your weak spot is control, she'll become vague and make you chase clarity. And if you fold, you teach her exactly how to control you next time. That's why the only power that lasts is the power that doesn't need to be proven. If you want the dynamic to change for real, your silence has to be real. Not performative, not temporary, not a pause while you wait for her to chase. Real silence is simply you refusing to reward what you don't respect. It's you living your life without checking whether she noticed. It's you letting her feel the consequence without rescuing her from it. And here's the cold realization you should sit with. A woman can't miss you while you're still available. She can't respect you while you're still begging. She can't fear losing you while you keep proving you're impossible to lose. So when you ignore her and she reacts, don't get excited by the reaction. Read it. Don't chase the warmth. Measure it. Don't argue with the guilt. Observe it. Don't fight the drama. Step back from it. Because the moment you stop being reachable on demand, you stop being easy to use. And if this made you see something you were avoiding, you already know what to do.